Hello everybody and welcome back to our Flutter tutorial. In this video we're going to be looking at how to have more advanced navigation systems. So as of now we have this simple button that goes to page 2 and then we go back. That's all it is. This isn't technically really how you would do a navigation system. Like if you were to have a lot of pages, you wouldn't just have a bunch of buttons lined up. Typically you would have a drawer, D-R-A-W-E-R, because I can't say it properly, and which would have a list of all your pages. So that's actually a thing in Flutter, and you can actually just create that from the scaffold. And this is another reason why the scaffold is so useful. You can actually just go, another property is just drawer, and you can say drawer of, and then we're going to have a child that is a list view, and the list view will have padding, and we'll say edge insets.0 because we don't want any padding, and then we'll say children is an array of widgets because that's what a list is. In Flutter it's an array of widgets. And the children that we'll have is we're going to have our header. So what we're going to say is the first child will be a drawer header, and it will have a child of text, and we'll say just nav pages, and then we can also specify decorations or something. So we can say decoration. It'll be box decoration, and we'll say a color of colors dot let's say just red, just to keep it a red accent. How about that, just to get them really fancy. And then let's add our actual element to get to the second page, because that's what you would typically have in a navigation drawer. So what we're going to have is, as a second element, we're going to say list tile. And it's going to have a it's going to be, I forget what the property is, hold on. List tile, and it's going to be title. Will just be a text element with, we'll say page 2. And then on tap, we're going to have the function that we have up here, which is just the same thing, and we're just going to say navigator.push context, so you can actually just copy what we have for the button here. It's just like that. All right, and then we can go ahead and add a parentheses, a parenthesis, and a comma. Save it, and it's not aligning properly. Oh, you should add a comma after the function, and then now it'll align properly. So you can see now in our app we have our little drawer over here, and I press it and it gives us this thing. Press page 2, goes to page 2, and then I can go back as well. So yeah, that's how that works. So this is going to get really annoying, especially if you have a lot of pages. You're going to have like you have a page for a store, page for this, page for that, and whatnot. Typically you're going to organize these via something called a route. Which is what you see with HTTPS protocol. You might see google.com/search or lego.com/store. But in order to kind of process all that, we're going to have to build our own functions. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder called utils. I haven't created already. And then in here I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it navigator.dart. This is just so we can organize all the navigation code. In here, we're going to import package flutter /material.dart, just like that. And then in here, we're going to have a bunch of things. So we're going to have one overarching variable that will store all these routes that are mapped to a function, like the material, like this thing over here. So they're going to map it to that. And then we'll say, so that's going to be in a map. So it'll be a map and it'll be of a string route. And another thing you might want to include with this is names. So in here we have page 2. This is the name. If our route is /p2, then we don't want it to display /p2. We would want it to display a separate name that we specify. So we can say the string is mapped to a map of string to dynamic. And dynamic can be anything. It's like an object in Java. So in this map, separate map here, we're going to have a name and then that callback function. Okay, so that's routes. And now we want to create a function to set these routes, because you can't just say nav.routes is equal to this. We have to have a function. So void set routes, and we're going to pass in, to make it easy on the user or in the main file, we're just going to pass in a list, and that list will be a list of lists, and each child list will have 3 elements in it. So it's going to be a list of dynamic. And that'll just be new routes. And what we're going to do is we'll iterate through each item. So for list dynamic item in new routes, and we're going to say routes at item at 0 here. So let me actually put a comment up here. So it should be a list. Let me actually just make it a multi-line comment real quick. So it should be a list of lists. So a list, and then we have children lists. So we'll have a route, a name, and then callback, stuff like that. And then we'll just have ... just like that. Okay, so that's what the template should be. So what we're going to say is we're going to have the route as the key, and then we're going to have that map to a map, which will have name of item at 1, and then func will be item at 2. Okay, so that's how that's going to work. And then we might just want to have get name real quick. Yeah, well, we can create a function called void get name, and that'll just be string route. And we can say return routes at name. That's just an easier way to do it. And like I said, we're going to want to be able to put all of these into a list. So right now we have this list that has just page 2 for now. So let's go ahead and create a function that will return a widget that will build this list. So we're going to say widget build list, and then we're going to pass in build context, and then we're also going to pass in another variable. It's going to be an optional variable. So the way we're going to denote that it's optional is because it's in square brackets. So I'm going to say in square brackets, and then we're going to add the opportunity for the user to say, oh, I don't want this page to be put on the nav, because as of now, this set routes is going to have our home page and then also page 2. But if we're on the home page, we might not want it to say, oh, go to home page. So we're going to add an option to exclude a couple of things. So we'll just have a list of strings for exclusions. Okay. All right. Build list. What we're going to say is, I tampered a little with this before, and the best way to do it was we would have to create a copy of the routes and then remove everything from the copy that we wanted excluded. So we're going to say map string, and then we're going to, like, it's going to be the same type, so map string dynamic, and we're going to say copy is equal to routes, and then we're going to say for string key in exclusions, we're going to say copy.remove key, and all that does is it removes the key and the value for that specified key. Okay, so in this function, we're going to want to return a list. To do this pretty easily, what we can do is we can return a builder for a list. This will allow us to do dynamic content which is what we have, content that isn't just static content. It's going to be, we're going to essentially be mapping data to each list tile. So what we're going to say is return list view dot builder, and we're going to say we're going to specify item count as copy dot length, and then we're going to specify an item builder. This is going to be a callback. So item builder will take in a parameter and a index variable. So context and I. So the first parameter is the build context, and vice versa. All right. So in here, we're going to want to get the route. So we're going to say string rt is equal to copy dot keys dot element at I, and then we're going to build a list tile based upon this route. So what we're going to say is return list tile, and next we're going to have a title of text of get name for the route. So that's why we had that function up there. If you don't want to have that function, you don't have to, but I'm just going to have it. It's giving me, make sure get name returns string. That's a mistake. All right. So in the list tile, we also want to specify an on tap. So on tap, and we're just going to parentheses to empty parameters to, and in the function, we're going to essentially take this navigator.push, and we're going to copy it over to here. So it's going to be navigator.push context, and we're going to say material page route builder context to, but this time we're going to replace this callback with what is in the map. So what we're going to say is routes at rt at function, and that should be good there. All right, so now in our main.dart, so you can save navigator.dart and go back to main.dart, and instead of doing this drawer, or keep the drawer and then just replace children with nav dot, you have to import nav. That's one thing. So go up to the top and just say import utils slash navigator.dart as nav. And then down here, where it says children of the drawer, we're just going to say nav.buildList, and we're going to pass in context. And because we're on the home screen, we want to exclude that home route. And we're going to create this route dictionary now, but it's going to be the slash. All right, so that should be all good. I'm not sure why I'm getting. Sir, I'm not. Why am I? The argument widget can't be assigned to the parameter type. Oh, I know. Sorry, my mistake. We have to replace the list view of it. So list view will be replaced with nav.buildList context, and then we're going to exclude the base route, which is just a slash. So that should be good for, and add an extra parenthesis there. All right, so we can save that, but we're not going to get anything because it's going to give us some errors because we haven't specified any routes so far. So we're going to create our dictionary up here, or our list of lists as we specified over here in set routes. So we're going to say list of dynamic routes is equal to a list, and then this is how we're going to build it. We're going to say each item is going to have a route, a name, and then our function, which will just be context, and that just maps to home page. All right, and then the second item will be page 2. So that'll be /p2, comma page 2, comma context to page 2 dot page 2, and we're just calling the constructor for page 2. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. And we should, oh, sorry, last thing, we have to actually implement these routes and set them in the navigator. So in my app, we're going to call the constructor of my app. So we're going to set it, so it's just going to be my app, no return type. And all it's going to have is just nav.setRoutes, routes. Just like that. So we save it, reload it. I can restart the app. And when we open this, we get page 2, which is good because we excluded the home. So let's go ahead and press it, and we get page 2, which is good. And this still works, the back button, all that. Okay, so that's nice and working for now. But this is kind of blank. Like we had that drawer header before. So how can we implement that, especially when we're using a list view builder? So the way we're actually going to have to do that is we're going to have to increase the item count by 1 because we're going to add an item essentially, and then we're going to have to offset everything by 1. So the first item will be the drawer header, and everything after that will be the next item. So we're going to have to say if I is equal to 0, it's going to be the first item, and we're going to return a drawer header. And the drawer header will just have a, drawer header is just going to have a child of text, which will be navigator, and we can specify the decoration again, and we'll say box decoration, and we'll just say color is colors.red accent, just to be add a little panache there. And then once again, because we offset this, we just have to decrease I by 1. So the 0th item is going to be the drawer header, but because the 0th item in the copy dictionary is the page 2 route, we're going to have to subtract 1 from I. So we can go ahead and save that, and you see that we have the same thing that we had before, and then page 2 still works, and that's all looking good. All right, yeah, that's basic or more advanced navigation with routes and names and stuff like that, adding a drawer. In the next video, we'll actually be looking at adding arguments to those pages so that we can pass data between two pages.